is an aspiration that everybody has, no matter who he might be, but by the virtue of his iman that Allah Ta'ala has blessed him with. So this will be deep down in the heart, that I want to be somebody who Allah Ta'ala is pleased with. I want to be the friend of Allah Ta'ala. Sometimes it might be more clear to a person that this is what I want, and sometimes it might not be so clear because it has been covered by whatever other things we have allowed to creep into our hearts. But under everything, this aspiration is there, and from time to time it will come to the fore. From time to time it will surface. So this aspiration is in every person, and he realizes that this world, all the things of this temporary world are temporary, and one day I'm going to have to leave, I'm going to have to meet Allah Ta'ala. The good of this world and the good of the akhirat is all based on being the friend of Allah Ta'ala. But now such a great aspiration we have, we want it, we all have that desire deep down in our heart, but the issue is we want to have this without having to make any sacrifices. We want this, but we don't want to make any sacrifice for it. We're not prepared to give in order to take. So in dunya, we understand this very easily, it's standard, every person understands. He wants something, he'll have to give something. He wants to buy something, he'll have to give the money. He wants to achieve something, he's going to have to make some effort, make some sacrifices. So for even small, trivial things of dunya, we understand there's an effort behind it, there's some sacrifice to be made. Without those sacrifices, nothing is achieved. So such a great aspiration, and yet we are not prepared to make the sacrifice that is required for it. And the sacrifices of what? One is that a person is told to sacrifice all the things that he possesses, all his wealth, all his whatever material possessions are, everything must give it away. Even if that was the case, forget his material possessions, if he was told to give his life, that too was a small bargain in return for gaining the friendship of Allah Ta'ala and leaving this dunya as a friend of Allah Ta'ala. So that too was a very small bargain. But what we are asked to sacrifice only one thing. Now for such a great aspiration that we have, such a great wealth that we want, only one thing that a person is asked to sacrifice, and nothing else but that one thing, is just to sacrifice anything that Allah Ta'ala is displeased with, any haram. So to displease Allah Ta'ala, that cannot become a means of gaining his friendship. So now a person wants this, so there's only one thing in reality to sacrifice. And what is meant to be sacrificed is also not anything of any worth, rather it is something of destruction. Somebody tells us that, look, this fire that you are putting your hand into, or this ember that you put into your pocket, you take that and throw it away, and in return I will give you something. Now what kind of transaction is this, that the person was about to destroy himself, burn himself to death, and the person who is offering him says that you stop destroying yourself and I will give you something in return. He is doing nobody a favor by throwing away that ember. He's not doing that person any good, he's doing himself the good. So likewise, a person who gives up sin, gives up whatever Allah Ta'ala has made haram, he's not doing Allah Ta'ala any favor, he's not doing anybody else any favor, he's doing himself the favor. But in return, Allah Ta'ala will grant him his friendship. What can be greater than that? So these things that become obstacles in a person's way, we need to reflect about what are we taking and what are we leaving behind. We are taking some haram pleasure for that fleeting moment, for that few seconds. In return, and in place of that, what we lost. We took this, like a person took some piece of dirt, and he, in place of a whole bar of gold, he decided to take one piece of dirt. So now, what kind of intelligence and what kind of thinking is that? So we'll find that very foolish. But can we imagine here that in place of the friendship of Allah Ta'ala, a person decided to choose some sin, decided to choose some just haram for that few minutes, for that few seconds, to pleasure himself, and what he lost in the process. So these few sacrifices are what we have to learn to condition our hearts and minds, that I have to make these few sacrifices, but in lieu of that, what am I achieving? What I will be blessed with? Be blessed with the friendship of Allah Ta'ala. So now somebody, that problem became the phone for him, but now in order to keep that phone and to keep that haram continuing on that phone, what he sacrificed? He sacrificed the friendship of Allah Ta'ala. Somebody is in some haram contact with someone. Now in order to just keep that haram contact going, what he sacrificed? Friendship of Allah Ta'ala. When the crunch comes, all these haram contacts all just desert the person. All those friends that were helping him to commit haram too will desert him. But who's providing for us? Who's sustaining us? Who created us? Allah Ta'ala created us. So we leave Allah Ta'ala aside for all these perishable things, and people who will desert us at the drop of just at one moment. They will just desert us as soon as something becomes difficult for them, they'll desert us. But for them, we prepared to give up the friendship of Allah Ta'ala. So this is such a terrible bargain. This has to be, we need to bring it deep down in our hearts, ponder, reflect, surround and think about it. When somebody is taking us towards some sin, inviting us to join in some haram, inviting us to join in something that is going to take us to our destruction of dunya and akhirat, sit down and ponder first for a moment. What's my choices here now? This friendship or the friendship of Allah Ta'ala? And is this worth the while that I take this friendship that's going to take me to destruction, and in place of that I'm sacrificing the pleasure of Allah Ta'ala and the friendship of Allah Ta'ala? That's obviously foolishness of a very, very high level. Allah Ta'ala give us the tawfiq that we ponder over these things and make the right choices. Because when the time has come to leave dunya, it's too late now to then decide what to choose. Then we're already gone. So before that time, and we have no idea when that time comes, it doesn't give anybody any respite that now you're still very young and you still have a lot of, any time his time has come, many people have gone long before their parents and grandparents also. Allah Ta'ala gives.
अल्लाह अल्लाह कैसा प्यारा नाम है, आशिकों का मीना और जाम है।